The morning sun spilled through the tall windows of a bustling café, painting golden streaks across polished wooden floors. The place buzzed with clinking cups, hurried footsteps, and the quiet murmur of conversations blending with the hiss of steaming milk. It was the kind of café where dreams paused for a moment of caffeine before rushing back into the chaos of the city. Behind the counter, Marissa balanced 3 plates on her arm while her other hand refilled a cup of black coffee. Her apron was dusted with flour, her hair tucked into a loose bun, and though her smile was gentle, exhaustion lingered in her eyes. She was young but carried the weight of someone older, a waitress whose life had been a constant fight to make ends meet. For most of the morning, customers came and went, students with laptops, office workers grabbing quick meals, an elderly couple sharing pancakes. Then the bell over the door jingled, and in walked a man who instantly changed the air. His tailored suit was dark as midnight. His watch gleamed with diamonds, and his polished shoes clicked against the floor with deliberate weight. He was Elliot Vaughn, a billionaire businessman whose name appeared on headlines, magazine covers, and Forbes lists. To the cafe regulars, he was out of place, too polished, too grand. Marissa greeted him politely and guided him to a corner table. He ordered black coffee, no sugar, no cream, and pulled out a thick stack of documents from his leather briefcase. His brow furrowed as he scanned the pages, pen scratching margins, lips pressed tight in concentration. From the counter, Marissa watched him. Not out of curiosity for his wealth, but because she'd seen the look before. The weight of decisions, the exhaustion of someone who hadn't slept. She delivered his coffee quietly, yet as she set the cup down, her eyes flicked across the page he was studying. Just a glance, but it was enough. A small clause buried in paragraphs of legal jargon caught her attention. She couldn't have explained why, but something about it seemed off. She had taken a few college classes years ago before life pulled her away. Business basics, contracts, finance. That memory sparked as she scanned the words. She hesitated. Who was she to say anything? He was a billionaire surrounded by lawyers, advisors, people far smarter than her. But the thought nagged at her as she moved through her shift, pouring coffee, wiping tables, delivering pastries. Every time she passed his booth, her eyes returned to the contract, to that one line hidden like a snake in tall grass. Finally, as she refilled his cup, she whispered softly, "Excuse me, sir. I couldn't help noticing something in your papers." Elliot's eyes snapped up, sharp and cold. "You noticed?" His tone carried disbelief, even irritation. People didn't interrupt Elliot Vaughn when he was working. Marissa flushed, gripping the coffee pot tighter. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't say anything. But I saw a clause. It looks like it gives full rights of your new project to the other party if you miss a single payment. It might be nothing, but it looked unusual." Silence pressed heavy between them. Elliot studied her, his expression unreadable. Then almost dismissively he turned the page and said, "Thank you. I'll have my people look at it." Marissa nodded, embarrassed, and returned to the counter. She told herself she'd been foolish. A billionaire didn't need help from a waitress. But 10 minutes later, Elliot's phone rang. His face drained of color as he listened. He slapped the papers on the table, eyes scanning furiously until they froze on the very clause she had mentioned. His jaw clenched, breath sharp. "Cancel the signing," he barked into the phone. "Now." The cafe grew still as he hung up, his hand trembling slightly against the polished wood. He looked up at Marissa, really looked at her this time. The arrogance in his eyes melted into something else. Shock. Gratitude. "You," he said slowly, "just saved me millions." The cafe's chatter had shifted. People who moments ago were lost in their own worlds now stole glances at the billionaire in the corner, and the young waitress, who had just changed everything. Marissa stood awkwardly near the counter, cheeks still warm with embarrassment, pretending to polish a stack of cups while her mind replayed what had just happened. She had spoken without thinking, and for a moment she regretted it. But then Elliot Vaughn rose from his booth. The crisp sound of his shoes against the wooden floor silenced the cafe more effectively than any bell. He walked straight toward her, the weight of his gaze steady, purposeful. Marissa swallowed hard. "I'm sorry if I overstepped." "Overstepped?" Elliot interrupted, his voice lower now, less harsh. He placed the papers on the counter between them, tapping the clause she had spotted. "My entire board of advisors, my legal team, even my own instincts missed this. You saw it in seconds." Marissa shifted nervously. Sometimes details stand out to me. I took a few business classes in college before. She trailed off, unwilling to explain how medical bills for her mother had drained their savings, how school had slipped through her fingers like sand. Elliot studied her face, searching. Before what? Before life, she said simply, shrugging with a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. For the first time in years, Elliot laughed. Not the polished laugh he used at charity galas, but something genuine, surprising even to him. The sound loosened something in the air. Life has a way of doing that, he said. Then more seriously, you saved me from a disaster. That contract would have cost me control of a project worth $500 million. Do you realize what you've done? Marissa shook her head. I just noticed words on a page. That's all? No, Elliot corrected. You noticed what no one else did. That's not just anything. The customers whispered, curious, as the billionaire and the waitress conversed like old acquaintances. The contrast was striking. His suit tailored and immaculate, her apron stained and fraying at the seams. Yet in that moment it was she who carried the power of clarity, and he who stood humbled. Elliot slid a business card across the counter. If you ever decide you're done serving coffee, call me. I could use someone with eyes like yours. Marissa stared at the card but didn't pick it up. I'm not sure your world is meant for someone like me. Elliot leaned closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. The world doesn't need more people like me. It needs more people like you. The words lodged in her chest, heavier than they seemed. She tucked the card into her pocket, unsure if she'd ever use it. That evening, as the cafe emptied and the sky outside faded into dusk, Elliot remained. He sat at the corner booth, phone pressed to his ear, orchestrating an army of lawyers and executives, his gaze drifting often to the counter where Marissa worked. By the time he finally rose to leave, he looked less like a billionaire and more like a man who had glimpsed something rare. Before he walked out, he paused at her side. What's your name? Marissa. Well, Marissa, Elliot said, offering a small nod. You've reminded me today that not all wealth can be measured in numbers. Don't forget that for yourself either. With that, he stepped into the night, the door closing behind him. Marissa leaned against the counter, the weight of the day pressing down. She glanced at the card in her pocket, the name embossed in gold, and wondered if maybe, just maybe, her life could change. Days passed. Life in the cafe returned to its usual rhythm, though Marissa felt the memory of that moment lingering like a hidden ember. Then 1 week later, the door opened again, and there he was. Elliot Vaughn, not in a suit this time, but in a simple shirt and jacket. He wasn't here for business. He was here for her. He slid into a booth and ordered the same black coffee. When Marissa approached, he spoke quietly. I didn't come for coffee. I came to ask why you never called. She hesitated, tray balanced on her hand. Because people like me don't work for billionaires. Elliot smiled faintly. People like you should be running the world. Marissa set down the cup, her hand trembling slightly. And why do you care? He leaned forward, his gaze steady. Because sometimes the right person comes along and changes everything. And I don't want to let that person slip away. Around them, the cafe hummed as always, unaware that a small detail had set in motion something extraordinary.